Howdy, Space Rangers, Captain Phoenix here. Today I'm posting a different type of video series. But before I go on, let me just say that the scenes here are not by me. Don't copyright me, Disney. Please, I just need to use these scenes for review purposes only. That's it. Now, let's get on with the video. Before I continue, let me also say that this video is sponsored by Fitness Solutions. You can follow them down in the link in the description at www.fitnesssolutions.co.ke. Don't have any posters for what they have because they are very local. They are very local. How should I say? Business, so they don't really have any posters or pictures or anything, but they sell gym equipment, or at the very least they sell secondhand gym equipment which they repair, sell it to other people for a relatively affordable price. So be sure to follow Fitness Solutions in the description at www.fitnesssolutions.co.ke. They're supposed to pay me for my videos and make them better, but www.fitnesssolutions.co.ke. Now, before we go into the video, let me just say that these videos are very hard to edit. They take a lot out of me. So if you guys would be so generous as to subscribe to this channel and like and that crazy stuff, you know what you have to do. Be sure to like this video, subscribe, and with that, let's get into the video. Star Wars, ladies and gentlemen. This is gonna be an interesting topic. I've decided to make this sort of like a mini series. This will be a part 1 through 3 mini series where we'll discuss Star Wars and the future of Star Wars would go to, right? So I've decided to make this mini series about where Star Wars is. It will be basically, the first part will be me talking about where Star Wars is, what my favorite Star Wars movies are, and how to get hyped up for the conclusion of the final Star Wars story in the Skywalker saga. So as I said, this first video is going to discuss about Star Wars legacy and how it failed. I hope you guys can stick around, and as said, these aren't my, you know, my this isn't me. As said, I don't know, I don't edit properly. So the footage you see here is from a channel called Net Alliance. You should follow him. He's a very good Star Wars fan, very good YouTuber, and he's trying some new stuff lately. So you won't be too strange if you go visit his channel. So be sure to check out his channel, subscribe to him. But yeah, otherwise, let's get into the video. So I don't know how to start this, but let me just try my best by saying Star Wars. Star Wars is basically the most explored franchise out there. Out of all the movie franchises in the world, I don't think there's one that's been as explored or as loved as Star Wars. Aside, the only thing coming close to it would be the MCU, but the MCU isn't that explored. Star Wars, on the other hand, each planet is, explored. Each character is given so much depth that it acts as if it's real. I mean, it almost seems as if on another planet we have some Jedi guys who have lightsabers and all. So it's one of these movie franchises that has a community that is really loyal and adores these movies and what they have. Star Wars has developed a community which takes it so seriously one could think it's real. And for all those reasons, Star Wars is as it's remembered. 40 years ago, the 40 was now it's 42, right? Yeah, 42 years ago, A New Hope came into theaters, just being called Star Wars, and from then on it sparked a community and a legacy. But then we had the prequels, which came out from the late 90s to the mid 2000s. People thought those were okay to bad, and then we had Disney step in. This is what people like to call the dark ages of Star Wars. The dark ages of Star Wars are where Disney came in, they didn't try anything new, and it was kind of a hit and miss situation. I don't think of it that way. I'll get into my reasons why, but let me continue. So we have the Dark Ages of Star Wars. The first was The Force Awakens, which didn't do anything new, but basically copy A New Hope and make it look, better with the new visuals of today. Then we had Rogue One, which people say was a pretty good Star Wars movie, just not up to their standards. Then we had The Last Jedi, which 70% of the fandom hated. And then we had the most forgettable Star Wars movie ever, and afterwards we're having Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker, coming out in December, which is getting some hype, though not as much hype as The Force Awakens or The Last Jedi did. So the question is, why isn't Episode 9 getting as much hype as it is? Why are people rambling on Disney for ruining Star Wars? And why is it lately that Disney just seems to not know where it's going? I'm gonna try this and I'm gonna see what I can do with it once and for all. Let's start with the prequels. The prequels were, George Lucas's version of what Star Wars could be if it was cool. Now, I don't hate the prequels. I didn't grow up with the prequels. If anything, I grew up with the sequel trilogy. So maybe I'm the last guy who should be giving you guys this video essay, but I'm gonna try my best anyway. So I didn't grow up with the prequels, but I did definitely watch them. To me, they were pretty good. My favorite Star Wars movie actually is Revenge of the Sith. So there's something, about it that makes it special to me. So yes, I do love Sith. It's my favorite Star Wars movie, followed up by Return of the Jedi, and then Empire Strikes Back as number 3. Yeah, come at me, haters. Come on, let's fight. Let's do this. I don't care. Regardless, the prequels were kind of a mess. Episode 1 was like really boring. Episode 2 was trash on sight, and Episode 3 was like the only gem that could save it. And people are saying that the sequel trilogy could fall into the same vein as the prequel trilogy. Why do I start at the prequels, you may ask? Well, George Lucas sold the prequels. He sold Star Wars to Disney for $7.4 billion. Reason being, people hated the prequels so much that George Lucas couldn't continue on with it. He thought that people hated it to an extent that Star Wars couldn't be made anymore. And for a while, that's what it was. Revenge of the Sith was considered to be the last Star Wars movie ever until Disney came along and decided on making a new trilogy place after Return of the Jedi. So you can see what this happens. Then Disney comes along. What's the first thing that Disney does? They cancel the Clone Wars, and in its place they have Rebels, as the new Star Wars TV show. Then they make The Force Awakens, which a lot of people complained was a rehash of A New Hope. Then we have The Last Jedi, which people got mad at because it didn't do everything they wanted. Then we have Solo, which was a forgettable movie. Rogue One, which was pretty good but didn't live up to expectations that could be, Star Wars. But let me slow down for a bit and get into why people think that Disney having Star Wars is truly the dark age of Star Wars. So with the prequels, people consider the prequels to be like the low point of Star Wars. These days, the people who grew up with the prequels are now speaking and having their own voices. They're beginning to love the prequels for what they were, mostly due to nostalgic value. The people who love the original still don't believe what they say, but regardless, it's a whole baffle. What I'm saying is that the view on the prequels are changing, and some of it unironically to an extent. The people who love the original trilogy can't put up with that, but it's what it is. Then we have Disney. So why do people think Disney is running Star Wars? Let's go this step by step. The first thing they did was cancel the Clone Wars TV show. A lot of people really did not like when Disney canceled the Clone Wars TV show. Instead, they replaced it with Rebels. And the thing with Rebels is that they made it too much of a kiddie show, but at the same time, they also made it kind of an adult show. To them, it seemed as if Disney did not know where to go. Like with Rebels, it started picking up some steam around season 2, season 3. But then again, if you think about it, Rebels only had 4 seasons. So therefore, you could see where the hatred from some people is coming from, where they realized like only half the series was good. Sorry, so I got something in my throat. But and it makes sense considering at the time Clone Wars only had 6 seasons, and things started picking up from season 3. So like the Clone Wars did have a lot more time to work with it. People weren't happy with how it ended, and they said they deserved a better ending. And like the season 7 and 8 were already planned for the future, so people were obviously outraged. And the fact that Disney went along and made a new TV show almost immediately did not soothe people. But people gave Rebels a watch. Some liked it, some hated it, some were in the middle, but overall it wasn't that bad. Rebels was a good show, but it was no Clone Wars. The next thing Disney did was make The Force Awakens. This movie got the entire world hyped up. Like everyone was preparing for this movie. Everyone was shaking in their boots. Everyone just was like, "Oh my goodness, the Force Awakens." We're getting on episode 7. I thought episode 6 was a good ending, but hey, it's Star Wars, man. I have to love this. And for a while, that's what it was gonna sell, and they thought it was gonna make good money, which it did. I mean, what other movie would be released on the same weekend as The Force Awakens? Am I right? Alvin and the Chipmunks, you wouldn't dare release yourself on the same weekend, right? Yeah, you guys wouldn't do that. Regardless, Disney made The Force Awakens. It made a crap ton of money and people loved it. But then, with lovers, we have haters. And with haters, we have people who force changes people's perception. Therefore, saying that The Force Awakens was a bit too much like A New Hope, that it followed the same story beats of somebody being on a desert planet, following the adventure, and thus being thrust into something new, into a galaxy full of potential. And to an extent, I can see what people say, but here's the thing. I know I'm gonna get a lot of flack for this, but I actually liked The Force Awakens over A New Hope. Yes, I have watched both of these. I'm a true Star Wars fan. I know what I'm talking about. I'm not bragging or anything. But when I watched these two back to back, I realized I had more of a connection to The Force Awakens than I did to A New Hope. Now, let me get into the reason why. First of all, The Force Awakens was the first ever Star Wars movie I watched, and it makes sense. Disney rebooting, giving Star Wars a soft reboot in a way that new fans can join in, and it's not just something for old fans to watch. It does bring something to the table where everyone can enjoy what Star Wars is, and the newcomers can see something that was there from nearly 40 years ago, but counting the prequel trilogy to be something like 10 years ago. So people like me weren't really into Star Wars at the time. So when I saw The Force Awakens, I knew that this movie was meant for me. From a business standpoint, it makes sense because Disney will get a lot of money from both old and new fans. And from a story standpoint, it kind of makes sense about how the galaxy would reset itself 3 decades after Return of the Jedi ended. So to me, it does make sense in this sort of sense that I would see The Force Awakens as my first movie because I would be the new audience Disney is showing itself to. So for those reasons, I guess I wouldn't be as mad as The Force Awakens. The Force Awakens definitely has better visuals than A New Hope. And I would say that in terms of storytelling, A New Hope would have the better one, seeing as it came out first. But to me, in all honesty, I think I would rather watch The Force Awakens over A New Hope any day. Mostly due to it having, I guess, a sort of special place in my heart for being the first Star Wars movie I saw. And it's because of The Force Awakens that I got to see the other 6 Star Wars movies. So I can't really hold a lot over its head, but I do say that to some people, to the older fans, they will get angry at The Force Awakens. To the newer fans, they'll kind of see it as an alright movie. I know it's not perfect by any means, but I can't see it working from a 2015 standpoint. Then we had Rogue One. I was kind of intrigued by Rogue One, especially after The Force Awakens. I wasn't like the new fans who was confused why Rey wasn't in Rogue One. I kind of knew what was going on. I knew why Rey wasn't in Rogue One. She wasn't born yet. And I kind of understood how the story went. Rogue One was an alright movie to me. I kind of found the first half boring and the second half to be really interesting. Like the parts where we get to, the battle on what's that planet? I keep forgetting planet. We have Vader. We have like when the second half of the movie came in, things started really kicking along, and I found myself enjoying it. Then we had The Last Jedi. To me, I say The Last Jedi is an average movie. I've already given my review on it. You guys can go watch it. But to me, that's what it is. The Last Jedi is an average movie with not a lot to give. Then we had, but then this was the movie that people say Disney has reached their limit. As to why, I'll get on that. But people say because of The Last Jedi, they don't feel safe with Star Wars anymore. Most of the fans have already backed out. And I'm like, okay, sure, Disney has had a few slip ups, but it can't be that bad. Hold on to your shoes, ladies and gentlemen, because we have Resistance, the new Disney show, came shortly after The Last Jedi. I mean, about a year, so it's not that shortly, but what else? Resistance, I found it to be kind of a lame show. Things didn't really start picking up until the end of the season, and people started saying that Resistance was a lame show indeed. That Disney even cancelled it after season 1 was made because guess what, ladies and gentlemen? Um, After season 1, we had season 2. Season 2 was already made during the airtime of season 1, like it was in production. So after season 2, there would be no more Resistance. Now, as of recording, Resistance season 2 hasn't come out. That's why I'm not giving my review on it or anything crazy like that. But Resistance hasn't come out. I mean, yeah, Resistance season 2 hasn't come out, but we all know it was cancelled from day one. And I don't know if it will be that great of a fit into the Star Wars universe, but we'll see about that. Then after Resistance, we had the most forgettable Star Wars movie to me. In fact, every time I think of the last Star Wars movie, I always remember that of it being The Last Jedi, because at least that got more recognition than Solo. It's just my opinion. It makes me angry because I really liked Solo. I'm not saying I loved it, but it was definitely a fun watch, and I would definitely recommend it to anyone who's not seen a Star Wars movie before, because this is just a fun sci-fi film you can enjoy. Then we're having episode 9 come out this year. And I noticed that the hype for it is a bit off. Why is this? Why going backing out of Star Wars, and why is everyone saying that Disney is the lowest point of Star Wars? Therefore, I guess I'll just have to repeat myself again. With The Force Awakens, people didn't really like it because they thought it was a rehash of A New Hope, so they hoped for something new. Then came Rogue One, which was something new. People enjoyed it, but it didn't have anything like it was more war-y, more battle-y. Like people really didn't want that; they wanted their Force. We had the Last Jedi, which also a lot of it wasn't focused on the Force. It was more of a slow chase between the First Order and the Resistance, which I can understand why people get mad at that. It was different from A New Hope, though not in the way people expected. Then we had Solo, which was something completely new to the Star Wars franchise, but it was also not enough to jazz people up. That's why we have now this year not a lot of people understanding what the Last Jedi, what Rise of Skywalker will be, because they don't know what to predict from Disney. Here's the thing: I believe that the core reason Star Wars is suffering is because Disney is backing away from the Force. I don't know why. I don't know why they do this, but they have done it. With their show Rebels, we don't get a lot of Jedi in it. We don't get like a lot of understanding of the Force or anything like that. It's very basic, and they do crawl into it a bit, but that's like in season 4, the very final season. For the first 3, they don't really do much with it. And it got me wondering, why don't they do this? They'll fix it with The Last Jedi. The Last Jedi also doesn't delve into this a lot. We don't get to see Luke do anything crazy aside from projecting him. And we also don't get to see Rey do anything crazy. I mean, she's kind of a Mary Sue at that point, but I'm not gonna go into that topic. You know me. I'm just gonna back away from this. Then we have topics like Solo, which also didn't have any Force characters aside from Maul, who came at the end. And then Resistance. Here's the problem with Resistance to me: they don't have any Force characters in it, and it makes me wonder, why is Disney backing away from the Force? Why are they so afraid of the Force? Do you know they could have made a Luke Skywalker series taking place in between episode 6 and 7? That would have been really cool. That would have been really, because they didn't. So I began to think, why is Disney backing away from the Force? Why are they so afraid of Star Wars? And then I got to thinking, what's up? Why are they not using the Force? Because to me it seemed the Force is a gold mine. Put the Force in anything related to Star Wars, it is an instant gold mine to Disney. Disney will use this to their highest advantage, and if they are able to make something like Jedi Fallen Order or something crazy like that, people will go to see it. So I'm not understanding. Disney wants our money, and they want us to fall in love with the Force. Why are they pushing everything towards the sequel trilogy, which has very rare things to do with the Force? Or why are they pushing like this non-Force thing to be existent? Are they favoring the old fans? What's their agenda here? Why are they not catering to the new fans? And then it hit me. There was a pattern going on here. Rebels didn't have the Force until season 4, but at least there was some Jedi, so at least we had something. Then we have episode 7, which didn't have a lightsaber battle until the end of the movie, so that got us anticipating it even more. Rogue One didn't have Vader until the end. Last Jedi also didn't even um the Last Jedi also didn't even have anything going on. Like it was the only Star Wars movie to not have a lightsaber battle, which frankly I'm mad at, but I've already expressed my feelings for it. And then we have Solo, which doesn't have any lightsaber characters unless you count that 1 minute with Maul. What I'm saying is, Disney's afraid of the Force. They mostly want to focus on TV shows and movies that have little to do with it and more with the actual Star Wars. Disney focuses more on Resistance without the Force, and it makes me wonder why. This is supposed to be a very small kids show. Wouldn't you think the Force would be here? But of course it's not. But why do it with the Resistance? Resistance will just be about some foolish spy who can't do anything. And kids will be bored by that. No wonder the show gets cancelled, because there's nothing interesting to it. And that's why Star Wars is failing. No, we're not in the Dark Ages. We're in the Dark Ages because we want to think we're in the Dark Ages. The Dark Ages passed when the prequels came, which is why Disney is trying to fix Star Wars mistakes. Episode 7 was a bit more like the original trilogy. Episode 8 tried to have this middle balance and be new, when we know episode 9 will be the perfect balance, even though we just got trailers. What I'm saying is that we've already seen the Dark Ages. What we're experiencing now is more like an experimental stage. After the experimental stage, we'll get the new face of Disney. What I'm saying is, is that the sequel trilogy, these are real Star Wars movies. The problem with the sequel trilogy is that Disney's not taking it seriously. They know they can make a gold mine out of this, but they don't want to take it seriously, which is why they're playing on the safe side. There are what how do this? They're playing on the safe side by having shows that have very little to do with the Force. They're playing on the safe side by having the movies do that as well. Episode 7 and 8 don't utilize the Force a lot because Disney doesn't know how to, expand the Force universe. Episode, how should I say? Rebels and Resistance don't use the Force a lot. Have you noticed that with the new Disney layout, they don't use the Force that much? It's mostly blasters and guns or adventures, like The Mandalorian even. Have you realized that in the new Disney outputs, they focus on the Force? What they focus on are wars, battles, and a bit of politics here and there, but that's not really the case. Disney isn't interested in the Force, especially for the sequel trilogy. They are using the sequel trilogy as an experiment to see whether people love it or not. For example, why do you think Solo will be the last Star Wars spin-off film? They were experimenting. Rogue One did well. Solo didn't do well. They decided no more spin-off films because it will confuse people a lot. Which is why this is the experimental stage. They don't care about the sequel trilogy. They don't care about the Skywalker saga. You're probably wondering why. It's one of the most important stories ever. Here's why. Disney wants to do their own thing. People are complaining that Disney rushed into Star Wars with no plan, and I completely agree with you. They do not know what they're doing going into this. That's because Star Wars already wrapped itself up. Star Wars already had a conclusion, and that conclusion was Return of the Jedi. So making a sequel to Return of the Jedi is a very hard task to do, which is why Disney didn't even bother, which is why Episode 7 was a copycat. Episode 8 was a train wreck to fans because they feel they got vomited in the face. Episode 9 was Episode 9 would probably be the only good sequel trilogy movie. But why do you think this happens? Maybe it's an accident or not, but I believe that Disney was using the sequel trilogy not to make good movies, but as an experimental stage to see what not to do, so that they can go on movies and their own stories. So that when they do that, they do have a plan. They do think ahead. They are prepared for what's to come. I believe it isn't their real goal, but the trilogy that's to come. The new movies that will come in 2022. The Rian Johnson trilogy, the used to be trilogy for Benioff and Weiss. Those are the ones that they're working on. Those are the ones they want to focus all their attention on so that they can get new Star Wars audiences sucked into the world of Star Wars, but at the same time keep this momentum going. As said, it might be an accident, it might not be, it might be some crazy master Disney plan, but I feel like they really had no plan walking into the sequel trilogy because they had saved all their guns for the new trilogy so much on wars and battles because they already have TV shows for that. They can finally focus on the Force. What I'm saying is Star Wars has failed because not just Disney, but I feel everyone as an entirety has lost track of what Star Wars used to be. Star Wars used to be a sci-fi fantasy genre. It used to be something that you could get away from in the real world and be sucked into this universe where you can have lightsaber battles, where you can fight spaceships, where you can all sorts of aliens, where you could understand more about the Force, where the Force used to be mysterious, but as you go along with these movies and adventures, it becomes less mysterious, and it's sort of like figuring out a puzzle. Everyone, Disney, the fans, and even to an extent Lucas, has lost track of what Star Wars used to be. And to that, I just say to Disney, bring the Force back. Utilize it, make sure you can bring it to its best. Use it to the best of your abilities. That way, you'll be able to make quality stories, you'll be able to get your fans back, and you'll be able to make as much money as you want. You'll be able to make all the crap ton money in the world. You will bring your fans back. The people who left Star Wars, once they hear the good things that are happening, they will come back. Bring the Force back. Bring the lightsabers, the Jedi, everything back. Don't focus on the uninteresting things anymore. Know what you're supposed to do from the start. No more experiments, okay? The experiments are over. you shouldn't go into this thinking you will fail. Star Wars is a very fragile franchise, yes, but it's better to go in trying and failing than feeling like you've already failed and then try again. At that point, you would have lost the faith of all your friends. Bring back the Force, Disney. Bring back what was special. Part 2 is gonna come soon. I hope you enjoyed it. As said, the footage is from Net Alliance. This video is sponsored by Fitness Solutions. Go find them at www.fitnesssolutions.co.ke. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe if you haven't already. Please subscribe and let me know what I can do to make my videos better. Give me some editing tips. Tell me how I can make my own footage. But overall, just let me know how I can make my channel better. I really want to know what you guys have to say in the comments. Please comment. I encourage you to do so. Let me know how I can make my channel better. Let me know how I can make my own footage. Let me know how I can come up with my own ideas and such. But regardless, that's all I have. Thank you for helping me see what's made Star Wars special to me and what makes it interesting to fun for the whole fan base. Thank you guys, and with that, I've been Captain Phoenix, and I will see you in another universe.